Virajaya Vivekananda Suraye Satchit Sukha Swarupaya Swami Tapaharine. My pranams to revered Swami Suparnananji Maharaj, to revered Swami Balabhadranji Maharaj, and my namaskars to Swami Vivekananda, and my pranams to other Swamis assembled here, Matajis, and my namaskars and regards to all the devotees assembled here. It is always a great pleasure to be in this Institute of Culture and address this very distinguished audience. Just now we listened to a very good and inspiring talk by Swami Vedatitananda ji, who spoke about Swami Vivekananda's practical Vedanta. Actually, what I am going to talk about is very much connected to that, the subject of Vedanta. You see, my subject is the nationalistic ideas of Swami Vivekananda. Now, the time is very less, and if you just go through the nationalistic ideas which Vivekananda has given, it's a huge corpus in itself. In fact, I would very strongly say that every Indian has to read one book. Right in the beginning, let me make this point very clear. And that is the Lectures from Colombo to Almora. Please note it down. This book is the Bible, or I should say, it is something which is indispensable when it comes to understanding what India is. You see, today we are talking about nationalism. Swamiji's ideas about nationalism. And in this, a big term comes nation. Now, I'm just going to keep my deliberation brief because it is a vast subject and very sensitive also. So I have to be crisp as much as possible and convey the point, the main point, which Swami Vivekananda keeps on hammering in all his lectures. I very much feel that India has still not studied Vivekananda. That's why there is so much confusion about what India is and what are the roots of this great nation. So what do we mean by nation? We all use this term nation in our deliberations, yes. What goes into the making of a nation? You see, nation is not just a piece of land with geographical boundaries. Nation is not made by that way. Nation actually is made by the people who live in that piece of land or in that geographical area. It is made by the people. And for a nation to come into existence, there has to be something common which gives this entire group of people an identity. I repeat this point, this is very important. There has to be something common which ties this entire group of people and which gives them a common identity. If that is not there, a nation does not come into existence. Now, if you look into the different nations that have come about in the history, you will see that the nations in the West, especially, we have to make a comparison between the nations, how they have come about in the West, and about India as a nation. When we look into the emergence of the different nations in the West, you will find that these nations, they have come about hovering around the common factor called language. You see, there is a group of people who speak one language, say French language. And these people, because of that one linguistic identity, they form a nation called France. And similarly, the Spaniards, the Germans, and so on, the Russians, the Chinese, they all speak one common language, and that gives them an identity that we are one nation. And that is how these nation states have come into existence. And there are several other factors also in this, like race is one factor. Kings, the great kings, there have been great monarchs in the West, and the people, they got connected with these monarchs, and then they formed a nation. Now, if we take these cases to understand what nation is or what goes into the making of nation, the next question comes: what went into the making of India as a nation? Was it language? Race? Did we have one king who ruled over the entire landscape of India, due to which we got our nationality? Was that the case? India's case is the most unique case in the entire history of humanity and on the planet itself. This is what Swami Vivekananda keeps on reminding us, that we are a totally different group of people who existed as a nation right from the ancient times. It's very interesting, when we were in the school, we were told that it is the Britishers who came and first made us a nation. And nothing could be a bigger lie than this great narrative which was built up by the Europeans. India existed as a nation from the most ancient times. But the question is, what went into the making of the Indian nation? It cannot be language, because we have, even today, we have thousands of dialects in this land, and more than 24 languages, recognized language in the Constitution of India. So right from the ancient times, this was a land where people spoke different dialects and different languages. So there was not one language which would give us a sense of identity throughout the length and breadth of this Indian subcontinent. So language was not the case. Swami Vivekananda says, what went into the making of India as a nation is one common ideology, and that is the great ideology of the Vedas. And the central idea of the Vedas is Dharma. This is a very important point. And when we talk about Dharma, some very strange kinds of problems emerge, especially how do you translate this term Dharma? And let me make this point very clear. English is an extremely poor language when it comes to conveying these dharmic ideas. Because in the West, English is the language of the Europeans. And in the West essentially being a material civilization, they don't have the vocabulary to convey these dharmic ideas and spiritual ideas. That's why Swami Vivekananda always says these ideas are not translatable. You can't translate these terms. That's why whenever we go to translate these terms, for example, Dharma has been very usually or commonly translated as religion. And now this is very much misleading to call Dharma as a religion. Dharma and religion are totally two different concepts. If we go by what actually religion means in the Western connotation, especially from the standpoint of the Semitic religions, then Dharma cannot be religion at all. Why? For if you just go by the Semitic religious ideas, for them, for a certain system to become religious, you have to subscribe to one book. You have to subscribe to one church. And you have to believe in a Savior who alone can bring about redemption to you. And you have to subscribe to all these factors. And without subscribing to these factors, you can't be considered to be a religious person. This is the case with Christianity and Islam. We know this very well. And in this sense, what we are talking about, this great Vedic system of thought, it cannot be translated as religion. Dharma is a totally different concept. You just see in our system, we don't have one single book. We don't have book at all. Because Vedas are not books. This is the first point which every Hindu should know. When we're talking about Hinduism, it is not based upon a book. Because Vedas, which is the very platform on which this great Hindu Dharma stands, it is not a book, number one. And our system, Hinduism, is not at all dependent on any personality. Personalities come and go, they come and go. And so thirdly, there is no organized church, a centralized church, which governs the rules of this particular system. So in this way, we see that Hinduism is a totally different thing. It is not as actually, it cannot be equated with religion as it is understood in the Semitic context and in the Western context. Now, what is this Dharma? When we talk about Dharma, we should keep it in mind. This is Dharma is a very vast concept which can be, we can attempt to understand it in different ways. One simple point, let me just make it very simple. You see, this creation which we are experiencing here, it is governed by certain spiritual laws and principles. And these spiritual laws and principles which govern this entire creation, they are existing from eternity, and they will exist for eternity. And these principles and laws, they are not created by any human being, they are eternally existing. That is why the very term Dharma means that which holds everything. Dharana dharma mityahu, dharmo dharayate prajaha. It says, what is Dharma? Dharma is that which holds this entire creation. What is holding this entire creation? There are eternally existing spiritual laws and principles. So there have been great rishis who have discovered these eternally existing laws and principles, and that is what has been coming down in the name of this great Vedic system of thought. So this Dharma, which we are today knowing as Hindu Dharma, it is actually nothing but the Vedic Sanatana Dharma. That is, this Dharma is said to be Sanatana. It is eternally existing. It didn't come into existence at a certain point of time in history. It has been eternally existing, and it will exist eternally. Now, what goes into the making of India as a nation is this dharmic base, this great ideology where a group of people, I'm talking about the entire Indian subcontinent. Today, of course, we have lost many of the great, in the ancient times, if we just look into the extent of this Indian civilization, it starts from the present-day Afghanistan, Kandahar. From Kandahar to Cambodia has been the extent of the so-called the Vedic civilization, and down to Sri Lanka. Can you just imagine? Today, of course, owing to the Islamic invasion and all those conversions and barbarity which had taken place in the last 1,400 years, Afghanistan is gone, Pakistan is gone, and slowly this area has been shrinking. And today, what India is existing, whatever it is, this group of people who lived a life which is completely in alignment with these dharmic ideas, they formed one nation. They spoke different languages. That is most interesting, actually. One thing we all have to think very seriously. No matter which language we speak, just imagine a person in Tamil Nadu, he is speaking a totally different language. And a person who is in Rajasthan or Haryana or Punjab, he is speaking a totally different language. Both of them totally disconnected as far as language is concerned, totally disconnected as far as the eating habits are concerned, totally disconnected as far as their lifestyle is concerned. And yet, they are connected together by a common ideology, a common thought system, and that is this great thought system of Vaidika Sanatana Dharma. The Tamil Nadu person, the man and woman, he or she also considers Ganga to be sacred. The person in Punjab and Haryana also considers Ganga to be sacred. Both of them believe in Gayatri and Gita. Both of them would go to Kashi and bow down their head before Kashi Vishwanath. What is that binds these two different groups of people? And that binding factor is what is the great system of thought of the Vedas. Swami Vivekananda doesn't stop. He doesn't tire to make us understand that what connects this entire Indian subcontinent is this common ideology of the Vedas. This is what goes into the making of this great Indian nation. So India as a nation has existed from timeless past. It is not the creation of Europeans who came here just a few centuries ago. And this is what Swami Vivekananda wanted us to understand. Now you see, Swamiji's idea of nationalism. This is again a very important point. Swamiji's Vivekananda's nationalism is actually nothing but the Hindu nationalism. I'll make this point very clear. Swamiji went to America. We all know 1893. Whenever we talk about Vivekananda, the first picture which comes before our eyes is that wonderful, majestic personality standing in the platform of the Chicago Parliament of Religions in 1893 and addressing the American audience and through them to the entire world. What did Vivekananda accomplish? It's a very important question. I always considered that Swami Vivekananda's 11 September 1893 speech was an explosion. It was an explosion of the Hindu pride. And it was the explosion of the glory of what Bharat is. Two things. The glory of Sanatana Dharma, number one. And secondly, the glory of our great Punya Bhumi, Bharat. For the first time, the world took note of what Hindu Dharma is. Till then, the entire world was denouncing what Hinduism is. They considered Hinduism to be a religion of barbarous, superstitious people, snake charmers. That was the day when the world took note of this great system, when Swami Vivekananda addressed the American audience saying that, I thank you all in the name of the most ancient order of monks in the world. The first line, just imagine, the turning point event of the modern times starts with this electrifying sentence coming from the mouth of Swami Vivekananda. And what was that sentence? I thank you in the name of the most ancient order of monks in the world. Tell me, dear brothers and sisters, which is that most ancient order of monks in the world? He is referring to the great Hindu Sanatana Dharma. Second sentence, Swamiji says, I thank you in the name of the mother of all religions. Which is this mother of all religions? Hindu Sanatana Dharma. Hinduism is the mother of all religions. Just imagine that. Swamiji says Christianity and Islam is a distant, patchy imitation of Hinduism. In another place he says that. And the third sentence, Swamiji says, I thank you in the name of the millions and billions of Hindus of all sects and classes. This was the turning point event. What exploded on that day was the Hindu pride, which actually Swami Vivekananda carried in his bosom. And that is what actually marked the beginning of the awakening of the new India. So in India, nationalism is connected with the pride in the great Sanatana Dharma. That's why even great, I should say, later on, Jawaharlal Nehru, in his glimpses of history, world history, he mentions this point. He says, Vivekananda's nationalism was Hindu nationalism. And how true it is. Every freedom fighter of the so-called 20th century, they all have drawn inspiration from the words of Swami Vivekananda. Once this Sanatana Dharma pride was awakened among the Indians, India woke up. And that is what we find when Swami Vivekananda came back to India. We all know he gave his fiery series of lectures starting from Colombo and ending in Almora, almost one long year. A series of lectures which awakened India. How did he awaken India? By making the Hindus understand the glory of Hindu Dharma. We had given up our pride in Hindu Dharma. We were trying to imitate the West at that time. That was the critical juncture. When the entire nation was in darkness, when Swami Vivekananda comes and tells the Indians that what is that true identity. So a very important point that we have to keep in our mind here is that the soul of this land is Hinduism. Swami Vivekananda, in different places, he keeps on saying, India and Hinduism, they are inseparable. Just like the body, we have a body and we have a soul. We can take this India, Bharatvarsha as the body, and its soul is this great Sanatana Dharma. This Sanatana Dharma, Hinduism, is what makes what Bharat is today. It is the most beautiful land on the planet. We know this. And what makes India, India is this great ideology of Hindu Sanatana Dharma. And Swamiji, at different places, he sings the glory of what Hinduism is. And in one place he says, you just see, I'll just read out one sentence from his talks. Swamiji says, national union in India must be a gathering up of its scattered spiritual forces. He is talking about the scattered spiritual forces. Wherever Swamiji uses the term spiritual forces and religion, he always is referring to the great spirituality of the Vedas, not Islam or Christianity. So he says, national union in India, what actually unites us as one people, it must be the gathering up of its scattered spiritual forces. A nation in India must be a union of those whose hearts beat to the same spiritual tune. I repeat once again, this sentence is very important. Swamiji says, a nation in India must be a union of those whose hearts beat to the same spiritual tune. Now, what is the same spiritual tune? The great spirituality of the Vedic Sanatan Dharma. And then he goes to say, now this is a very important thing, dear brothers and sisters, and we have to think about it very seriously. In coming times in future, we are going to face this problem. Let us just make this point very clear. Swamiji says, if this Hindu Sanatana Dharma dies from India, in 3 generations, India will be dead and gone. This is a wake-up call, this is a warning to all of us. Swamiji says, but mark you, if you give up this spirituality, which spirituality? The spirituality of our great rishis, the great system of thought of the Vedas, the Upanishads. If you give up this spirituality, leaving it aside to go after the materializing civilization of the West, the result will be that in 3 generations you will be an extinct race. This is the importance of the Vedic Sanatana Dharma, my dear brothers and sisters. Remember, this Hinduism is the very soul, the very prana, the very vital force of this great land called Bharatvarsha. If Hinduism is dead, remember, Bharat will be dead and gone in 3 generations. This is the warning coming from Swami Vivekananda. Because the backbone of the nation will be broken. If Hinduism dies, the very backbone of the nation will be broken. The foundation upon which the national edifice has been built will be undermined, and the result will be annihilation and destruction. Just imagine Vivekananda's words. Have we taken his words seriously? Even after the independence of India, what have we been doing? So confused about our ideology. We talk about Marxism, socialism, all these leftist ideas. I just wonder, in India, are we to be guided by Stalins and Lenins? When we have great rishis in this land, the land of Shankaracharya and Vivekananda, Lenins and Stalins will guide us. What can be a greater irony than this situation? It's something which we have to think about. This land has to be guided by whom? But the great masters like Vivekananda and Shankaracharya and the great rishis of the past, they have been the path showers how the society, individually as well as collectively, can reach the acme of well-being, both material prosperity as well as spiritual illumination. That was the vision of the rishis, Abhyodaya as well as Nishrayasa, how to bring about. Shankaracharya keeps on telling this. This can be brought about a different system, and India's nationality stands upon those ideas of the Vedas. And of course, this just now what I pointed out, if Hindu Sanatana Dharma dies in this land, India will be dead and gone. And if India dies, what will happen? Look at Swamiji's words. He says, if India dies, then from the world all spirituality will be extinct. All moral perfection will be extinct. All sweet-souled sympathy for religion will be extinct. All ideality will be extinct. Such a thing can never be. Those that think that the present revival of Hinduism is only a manifestation of patriotic impulse are deluded. This last line is very important. Swamiji is saying that those that think that the present revival, Swamiji is talking about the revival of Hindu Dharma during his times. And he is saying that those who think that this present revival of Hinduism is only a manifestation of patriotic impulse, they are deluded. This is not a manifestation of patriotic impulse alone. Hinduism is the very soul, the very prana of Bharat. Without Hinduism, there is no Bharat. This inseparable connection between Bharat and India as a nation has to be understood very, very clearly. Now, when I was thinking about this program and when I was asked to come here, since yesterday actually, I came back from Mayavati just 3 days back. And then I was just thinking, what shall I talk about? Because nationalistic ideas, you can talk about different things, wonderful things. Vedatitanandji spoke, how we can work for our country, that is one aspect of it. But I didn't touch upon that point. I wanted our people to understand what is the connection between Hinduism and India as a nation. One is the soul, other is the body. They exist together. If the soul is dead, the body will be dead and gone. Let us make this point very clear. One more thing and I will wind up my talk. Yesterday was 4th July. We all know 1902, Swami Vivekananda on 4th July, he passed away, he attained his Mahasamadhi, and it is 123 years since his passing away. If today Vivekananda comes back to India, okay, it's a very interesting imagination. You can try to imagine. Suppose if Vivekananda comes back today in 2025, just imagine Vivekananda is in this hall, 5th July, he's sitting here, and he's seeing the present day India. What will be his response? It's an important point for all of us to think. Have we really followed the path shown by this great master? Absolutely no. Especially Bengal, I would say. Bengal has not yet taken Vivekananda seriously. I feel so sad. Every year we celebrate Vivekananda's return from America in the month of January. 19 January we celebrate that day. I just wonder, in Sialda station, when we are celebrating Vivekananda, there are hardly some 100, 200 people assembled there. Where we should have seen millions and millions of multitudes gathering in the name of Vivekananda, this has still not happened in Bengal. That is why this has got this very, I should say, it's a very sad story in Bengal. Why is this? Bengal should have been on the forefront in leading the nation today, which is totally lagging behind, because it has not taken Vivekananda the way it should have been taken. Now, if Vivekananda comes to India, of course, there are many reasons for which he would have been very glad. I just can't help remembering what he had said in 1897, that wonderful prophetic vision of Vivekananda. He had said, I am seeing that my motherland is rising. The longest night seems to be passing away. The sorest stubble seems to be coming to an end at last. The seeming corpse is appearing to be awakening now. India, my motherland, is awakening on her feet. None can resist her anymore. No outward power can hold her back anymore. And never again India is going to sleep anymore, for I am seeing this infinite giant is rising on her feet. Just imagine, in 1897, more than 127 years back, Vivekananda had visualized that this motherland is rising and no one can stop its progress. This Vivekananda had predicted 127 years back. Just imagine, at a time when there was not a single ray of hope at that time. What made this great man speak like this? And today, in 2025, where does India stand? In 1947, one of the poorest nations in the world, India, we didn't have food grains enough to eat. Food grains used to come from America. In 1947, from there, today we are the largest suppliers of food grains to the other poor countries. How did this happen? During Corona, when even the biggest, richest nations could not do, we Indians did. We supplied medicines to the many third world countries. How did this happen? Today, India is the 4th largest economy in the world. From 1947, we have come to this position, especially in the last 10, 12 years. Amazing things have been accomplished. Do we have the eyes to see it? Let us be very sincere. Let us not go into the politics of the situation, but wherever some good job has been done, we should be sincere enough to acknowledge it. And today, we are everywhere. Space science, nuclear science. Today, India is not following somebody else's decision. We are the decision makers today. And in the next 20 years, we are going to be at par with the most powerful nations in the world. This is what Vivekananda had predicted. Now, if Vivekananda sees this, definitely he would be very glad to see India is rising now. But he would also be very sad. That point I will just touch and I'll finish my talk. He would be very sad to see one thing. And this is what we have to be very careful. Even today, my dear brothers and sisters, just imagine. We Hindus especially, I want to talk about the Hindus. We are still so badly divided. The same old disease, the chronic disease of division. We are divided on linguistic lines. casteist lines, and especially linguistic lines. You can see every day you will find this quarrel about language. My language is superior and your language is inferior. This, when are we going to grow up? You will see that Tamilians don't talk to the Kannadigas. Kannadigas won't talk to Tamilians. Marathis have problem with the Hindi people. Bengalis have problem with the non-Bengalis. When are we going to become one people? Swami Vivekananda, literally he would shed tears. From Kashmir to Kanyakumari, we are one race. We are Arya Bhumi. We are Arya Putras. You may speak any language. Every language is equally great. Now always keep on seeing, see what we have to learn. Every North Indian should learn at least 1 or 2 South Indian languages and break the language barrier. Every South Indian should pick up 1 or 2 North Indian languages and break the language barrier. We are all one people. You may speak any language you want, but we are one people, especially the Hindus. Just imagine, Swami Vivekananda had spoken about this very passionately. His heart would break to see how we are quarreling and bickering over this flimsy and nonsensical issues which is going on even today. If Vivekananda sees this today, he would be a totally disillusioned and a dejected person. How sad. Even after 40, 70, 77 years of India's independence, even today we are bickering over these petty things. If we 100 crores, 140 crore people, if we are united in the one spirit of nationalism, just imagine what a force India can be. Whatever we have achieved in spite of all this corruption and these divisions in our society, in spite of that, India has come to this glorious state. So anyhow, this is a very important subject. In the matter of just 25, 30 minutes, I can go on like this. There are many other issues. Swami Vivekananda has spoken about 3 points. Let me just touch upon that point and then I'll wind up my talk. Swamiji says, the future of India. Swami Vivekananda is talking about this 127 years back. At that time, Vivekananda had visualized the future of India entirely depends upon 3 things. Please note it down. This is the mantra for even the coming decades. And that mantra is what? He says, number 1, organization. Number 2, coordination of wills. And number 3, accumulation of power. What he means to say is that we have to be united. We have to be organized. Our wills have to be coordinated. When we become organized, when our wills become coordinated, we will accumulate a tremendous power by which we can face all the so-called evil forces of this country. One more small point. This is a very sensitive issue. As I said, the very prana of Bharat is Hindu Sanatana Dharma, number 1. Let this be taken very seriously. Swami Vivekananda repeatedly says, if this Sanatana Dharma dies, India will be dead and gone. There is a dangerous phenomenon going on in this country and everyone will have to think about it seriously. That is Islamization of India. Can you just imagine? Islamization of India? We have lost Kashmir and West Bengal is a ticking bomb waiting to explode. We know. And when I'm saying this, I'm saying with not 1 ounce of hatred for anyone. Hindu cannot have hatred for anyone. That is the true Hinduism. But that doesn't mean that we have to be foolish. We should know the evil forces working in the world, the evil forces where you have such ideas as kafir and jihad, where the only agenda is to kill others. We should also know how to defend our dharma. We should also know how to defend our country. Just imagine if India becomes Islamic, it will be dead and gone. Bengal is it is already sitting on the time bomb. Just imagine, we know what is happening in our neighboring countries. I am saying this with utmost respect to all the religions. We don't have any hatred for anybody, but at the same time, we have to have our eyes open because, as I said, if the Hindu character of India is dead and gone, India will be gone. If the Hindu character of West Bengal is gone, West Bengal will be dead and gone. And this point, everybody has to be taken, we have to take it seriously. And that's why I very strongly recommend. I always say the real teaching of Sri Ramakrishna is found in Swami Vivekananda. The real teaching of Sri Ramakrishna, Shudhu Katamrit Podle Hobera. You have to read Vivekananda to understand its implications, the social, the national, and the global implications you will find in Swami Vivekananda's words, the fiery words of this great teacher. Shudhu Katamrit Podle, it won't become, we just become some sentimental things. We have to be practical. down to what, as far as our nation is concerned, how are we going to defend our nation? This great community. If Hinduism dies, if the Hindu community dies, what will happen? An awakened Hinduism will result in an awakened India, and an awakened India will bring about an awakened world. It is the Vedic system of thought alone which can bring about the ultimate well-being of the entire human race. This is the simple conclusion. So this is what we find in Vivekananda's amazing ideas on nationalism. So before I just wind up, just once again, touching upon the main point, Vivekananda never tired to remind us that the nationhood of Bharat lies in this great Vedic system of thought, which alone unites all of us. Just imagine Kumbh Mela, what happened just a few months back. 67 crore people assembling in one place, speaking multitudes of languages with different lifestyles, all coming together, tied down by what? What a great demonstration it was. That is real India, and that India has to be preserved, and that community has to be preserved, and we should take care that our future generations, they have to be informed about the glory of Hinduism and the glory of Bharat. Thank you so much.